This is my review of the Great War of Separation. Now, if you know anything about me, Joker the Fool from Velvet Room Publishing, you know I'm big into the Rippaverse, and I constantly say the biggest reason why is the universe aspect of the Rippaverse. And one of the foundational events to the Rippaverse and how the current timeline is and why things are the way that they are is because of this event known as the Great War of Separation. Now, we as the fans knew about this event because of one scene in Isom 2 where Gooding and Isom discuss the Great War of Separation, although very vaguely. They don't say much about it. And now we as the fans knew it was important. We wanted to know more. Eric, or young Rippa, was saying, you know, we'll find out more about that eventually because it was something he had planned and envisioned before Isom 1 ever came out. And now Chuck Dixon and Jack Herbert are bringing the Great War of Separation to life as a limited series, as revealed to us in the Rippaveal. And we have the first issue here, 56 pages. I'm going to review it. Go over spoilers, so if you haven't gotten your copy yet, you're still waiting for it, or you haven't ordered it yet, do that now, then come back to this review, because I am going to go into spoiler talk. So this really is a short introduction to the Great War of Separation. So this, of course, is a limited series, so it does end on a cliffhanger. It leaves you wanting more. But the first thing that we get is, or the first page that we get, is this map that shows that you have the United States, the Eastern Seaboard, Texas, and I believe, like Oklahoma, Nebraska, a bit of Kansas, and then you've got Mid-Southern Alliance, and you've got Bromhouse, and it's the Great War of Separation taking place in an already divided America. Very interesting stuff. So this is before the Great War of Separation. This map was made by Irene Strakowski, better known as Rainey. She did the Fiendish series, or she does the Fiendish series, and she also did a poster for the Isom 2 campaign. So this is a pretty simple image here, but it's absolutely fantastic. Of course, Jack Herbert's art is absolutely amazing here. The pencils and the inks really pop off the page, and it really suits the established style of the Rippaverse. So this is an absolute joy of a book to read. Absolutely love these panel layouts. Now, you've got a young Avery Silman. I believe Jacob and Harriet are his parents. And that they use that as the, I guess, part of the framing device. But when I interviewed Chuck Dixon on the Braxcast, said they were meant to be the ones who present how the home front is going. And I think Chuck does a very good job of weaving Avery's story in with the ongoing conflict of the war. So the war starting when you've got these members of the cartel that ambush the Texas National Guard. They go to war. You've got basically an Apache helicopter. You see this explosion, and then you've got an Apache helicopter taken down. And then they go and they have this conflict. And this is what starts this war between the cartel and Texas. And the way Texas handles it dissatisfies the federal government. And of course, how you see this map here, they're still under the jurisdiction of the federal government from Washington, D.C. So this is what's really setting up the Great War of Separation. And we have the beginning of Brian Solari leaving the he leaves the army, and then he, like I said, this art is absolutely fantastic just to flip through. See, you don't really have any two-page spreads, but you do have art like that. But we do get the first impetus of Brian Solari leaving the, you see here, you've got Brian Solari here. He does leave the United States Army, and he goes off to Texas to fight back in Texas. So you see him right there going back into Texas, and this is basically where Texas is beginning its secession from the Union. I believe the governor is called a discount Sam Houston in that, so I absolutely love that line there. Now, in terms of the writing, it's very solid. Chuck Dixon is a fantastic writer, an absolute legend in the comic industry. So, of course, the writing is going to be top-notch in this. The only thing I really have to be, I'd say, critical of in terms of the writing, and this isn't necessarily something that's against the writing or the way that it's presented, is that you do have Spanish spoken in some of the scenes, and it's not translated. So for someone who doesn't really understand Spanish, it would have been nice to have some translations, because some of that text is lost, but you can tell what they're saying based on the context of the visuals that you get. So it's not the worst thing, but to make it a smoother and a better reading experience, having translations here would have been better, or just having it in English and then having like an asterisk there and saying like translated from Spanish. Common America has done that with like Russian and Japanese. Comics do that all the time, where they just will have the asterisk and say that they're speaking a different language, right? So that's the only thing that I really would say I disliked about reading this book, is that those translations weren't in Spanish. Everything else in this book, it's just such a joy to flip through. Of course, the paper is nice and thick and great to flip through, but that's very par for the course for Rippaverse books. They're always printed very high in a very high quality, and the ending that we see here is absolutely fantastic. We get the start of the exceptional. So you've got Stallion introduced to us, and Zeno is in the book in a very, very short fashion. So Zeno is a character on cover B. Got like absorbs the bullet holes, a bit of a shapeshifter type of character, if I can find him. He's got one scene. So this is very much a story that sets stuff up for the later issues to introduce to us, which is something that if you've read other Rippaverse books and you're not used, you say, this is Zeno right here, and he's gotten shot at, he just absorbs those bullets as a shapeshifter. And this is his one scene, and it looks absolutely fantastic. Like I said, the lettering from Invisible Studios, the coloring from, if I can get it right, Candice Hahn, and Jack Herbert's inks and pencils are just such a joy to look at. This is probably some of the best art the Rippaverse has put out, and I am so glad that Jack Herbert has done this book and is working with Chuck Dixon. And of course, hopefully we get the rest of these issues pretty soon, because this is definitely ending on a cliffhanger. But to finish my point and to finish up the review, is that since this is a 56-pager, most of the Rippaverse books are 96 plus pages, so you're getting content that's equivalent to like 4 or 5 monthly floppies, where this is more or less like around 2. So you're not getting as much story as you would with those other books. And if your experience with comics is just getting into the Rippaverse and reading like Yaira and Isom and Alpha Core, you're going to be like, well, where's the rest of it? Well, it's going to come in the following issues of the ongoing series, which hopefully we won't have to wait too long for, since they'll be around the same length, and we'll be able to get the second, the third issue in the coming months, and we won't have to wait years to find out how the Great War Separation truly plays out, because we have an already divided America, and the Great War Separation is going to describe how Texas secedes from the Union, and of course how Flores Park becomes its own city-state. But we have a pretty good idea of how the continent of America looks like now, and especially, we got the Brom House, we got the Mid-Southern Alliance, and we got the United States and Greater Florida there. It's going to be really interesting to see how the Great War Separation changes the rest of these borders, and how Brian Solari gets his powers and all these sorts of things, and of course how Zeno plays into the story, because all of that is for the later issues. This is really just setting the scene, putting those pieces into place, and Chuck is going to tie it all together in those later issues. But this is a fantastic start so far. It gives you a lot to really think about for as a longtime fan of the Rippaverse, if you are one, and if you're new to the Rippaverse and you're just wanting to get in, I think this is a fantastic place to start. Art is absolutely fantastic, and the way that it's paced and the way that it's presented, I think, is a really good. If you like this, you're going to like something like Yaira or Alpha Core or Horseman, especially since Horseman's much more grounded than something like Yaira would be. But if you like the Great War Separation, you're going to like other Rippaverse books. So whether or not you're a longtime fan of the Rippaverse, you're really invested, and you're going to have to read this, because I would say, if there's going to be essential reading for the Rippaverse, it's going to be this, because this is a foundational event to the lore of the Rippaverse, the Great War of Separation. And if you're interested in the Rippaverse, I would honestly recommend starting with the Great War of Separation, because it just, like I said, it just has so many elements from other Rippaverse books that make them fantastic, that if you enjoy this, you're going to enjoy other ones. But that's really all I have to say for this review. Like I said, it's a 56-pager. It's a fantastically made book, and it's going to leave you wanting more. So hopefully Great War Separation 2 and the rest of the issues come to really tie this event up in a nice package. But fantastic work so far. Really happy to see the Rippaverse releasing stuff like this, and hopefully they release more limited series, and of course getting the Great War Separation finished up is going to be a fantastic thing to see. But that's all I have for now. Hopefully you guys enjoy this review. Joker is out.